First of all, we are very privileged to have Mr. Kobbi Shoshani, currently the Consul General of Israel in Mumbai. He is the official representative of the State of Israel in Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, and Goa. Prior to this appointment in Mumbai, Mr. Shoshani has visited India several times in the past. In 1992, he was sent for a 6-month period right after the establishment of full diplomatic relations between India and Israel, and he took part in forming the embassy in New Delhi. Kobbi had been sent by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel to Mumbai right after the 26/11 terror attacks in 2008, and he subsequently came also in 2018. So he has a tremendous amount of links to India. So without further ado, let me hand it off to Mr. Kobbi Shoshani, Consul General of Israel in Mumbai.
Thank you, Mr. Basu, and thank you for the introduction. I'll try to do it less than 10 minutes, and I hope that it's going to be interesting. I have a perspective of 21 days only in Mumbai. But as you mentioned before, I was here several times in the past, and I think that I have a perspective not only about the city, about the relations between India and Israel, and this lecture is going to be about that. But I would like to start with a sentence that I think that Prime Minister Modi said when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, that Israel and India has no land connection. But what is connect us is the water. And this is something that I like very much, because water is one of our main goals here in India, and of course, to promote the special relations with India. 21 days is not enough to speak about right perspective about India, but I think that I would like to start, and you mentioned my visit in Mumbai in India as well. I remember when I came in 1992 to Mumbai, Bombay then, I didn't see a lot of tall buildings in the skyline. It was the first beginning between the relations between India and Israel. Israel and India has only 30 years of special relation, full diplomatic relations. Then it was quite problematic in the beginning. And when I came here again in 2008, as you mentioned, after 26/11, I saw a big change of the city. I saw a huge building. I saw a vibrant city, and I fell in love with the city, although it was not an easy days. I was 1 month in that time. I saw the beginning of the bridge that actually connecting the northern part of Mumbai to the south. And right now I see that everything is completely full. And in 2018, I saw a completely different skyline. And it seems, and it's connecting to what you said, probably it's a very change of India in my eyes. And in Hebrew, there is a sentence, which I'm not going to say it in Hebrew: the first visit, the first guest see all the good and bad things. And I think that I saw the change that India has passed in the last 15, 20 years, and it's amazing. And I'm saying it in a very foreign eyes, and you are a superpower. And you have, and if we will have time about water afterwards, I will elaborate about the pipes that I've seen in Thane district, which is, I think, something unbelievable. From the different side, I think that Israel, different by size and of course by population from India. India is a country of agriculture. 65% of the nation actually deals directly or indirectly with agriculture. In Israel, it's only 7, almost 80%. But the connection is calendar. And you are a historian, I think, and I hope that I don't make a mistake. The Christian calendar is according to the sun. The Jewish calendar is according to the lunar. And the Indian calendar is combination of the two. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think this is a bridge between us and to the rest of the world. And I think I like it very much. And I think that it's I'm astronomer as a hobby, and I think that it's quite interesting. And you've mentioned Einstein, and you've mentioned some of Indian influence over the world. I wrote 6 or 7 points that I would like to mention about India and Israel, and the connecting and important points that it's very important. First of all, we both have an ancient cultures. You mentioned it in your lecture, Mr. Basu, and I think it was very interesting for me, for my ears, to hear this lecture. But without understand the history of India and Israel, you cannot understand the current time, the political, everything, the life of India and Israel. And I think that it's truth for all of the countries, but I think in Israel and India, because we are an ancient culture, everything reflects in these days. That's the first point. The second point is, of course, the British heritage. With the bad and good things, doesn't matter. The influence of the British over the state of Israel and over India, it's tremendous. You can see it in the buildings, you can see it in the bureaucracy, you can see it everywhere. And although you are celebrating 75 years of independence, and we are next year going to celebrate the 74th anniversary, we are younger than you in 1 year. I think that the British heritage is, for good and bad, it's quite amazing. The third thing is the young generation, and we've heard in the beginning the fantastic young musician, and I think that we have in Israel and India a brilliant young generation. They are smart, they have brains, they are interpreters, they are businessmen. We should give them the work because they know how to do. And I think this is a lot in common with India and Israel. We are a very young society. Now, without entering to the political side, I think that there is very similarity between India and Israel. And again, I'm not going to enter to the political side. I'm diplomat, but I should not do it. But India has been created or actually founded by a very important party. Mahatma Gandhi was, he was a hero. When I was a child, my father spoke about him at home. Rabindranath Tagore, of course, but there actually was the basic founder of the nation of India. And of course, in Israel, it was the same thing. It was the Labour Party with David Ben-Gurion. He was actually the founder of the state. It was amazing. Both of them were very amazing, and more than that, with a lot of vision. But in 1977, it was transformation and the BJP became in power. And it reminds me the same thing in Israel. The Likud party, which is a right wing, came into power in 1977. Prime Minister then was Menachem Begin. And in the recent years, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu that was visited India, and Modi was visited, the Prime Minister of India was visited Israel, which was extremely important in Israel. Then the political situation is quite important. Even today in Maharashtra, the government in Maharashtra reminds me our government because it's a split of small parties collected together. Now, the borders between Israel and the neighbors and the conflict over the borders here between Pakistan, Bangladesh, it's also very similar to Israel, and it makes me very fascinating when I talk about it. But it's the same thing. The last but not least is the water issue. As I mentioned, water is extremely important. We have suffered from a lack of water for many years, and thanks God we solved the problem due to our water management, irrigation system, purification, unused water, which is precedently something that there is 1 hour that I can speak about it. And we are coming to India to share this innovation and thoughts with the Indian people, because water is the source of life. I will do it in a very short way. I don't want to enter to that. If someone wants afterwards, I can speak to him and read and write him something about it. But I was in Thane, as I mentioned before, and I saw a huge 2 pipelines coming from the lakes to the city of Mumbai with 4 billion liters a day coming from this lake to the city. It's amazing. It showed the power of India. And why I'm telling you this story? Because I think that Israel as a land of innovation, I think also India, but production, and this is my last sentence, the ability to produce huge and open markets, it's here. Then the combination between India and the cooperation between India and Israel is for the benefit of the whole region. And don't forget that together, India and Israel, we are almost 1.4 billion people. We are only 10 billion. Then let me finish with that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shoshani. That was a very interesting talk.